Welcome. Wherever you are, feel the weight of your body. Feel the ground beneath you. Let your breath soften. Let your shoulders fall away from the day. Let this moment become a doorway. This is living heaven on earth. Not a place to think about truth, but a place to walk it. Breathe it and become it. Let the earth hold you. Let the moment teach you. We begin here. Welcome to Living Heaven on Earth, a sacred space where spiritual practice becomes embodied life. Today we explore something that belongs not merely to artists, musicians, poets, or writers, but to every human being: creativity. You are creative because you are alive. Every day you take what has not yet existed and help bring it into form. A thought becomes a word. An idea becomes an action. A feeling becomes a song. A vision becomes a painting, a garden, a meal, a business, a relationship, a solution, a story, or a new way of living. In our last episode, we explored the sacred fire of creative energy. Today, we follow that fire into outward expression. And perhaps this helps us understand something we see throughout human culture. So much music, art, poetry, dance, and creative expression carries echoes of longing, sensuality, attraction, intimacy, union, and desire. This does not mean that every creative act is sexual. It means that sexuality and creativity can arise from the same deeper current of life. Both carry longing. Both carry tension and release. Both can involve vulnerability, embodiment, beauty, surrender, and the desire to connect. A melody reaches toward resolution. A dance reaches toward movement and union. A poem gives language to longing. A painting gives visible form to something that once lived only within the mind. The artist and the lover may be listening to the same ancient current in different ways. The sacred fire seeks expression. Sometimes it becomes intimacy, sometimes music, sometimes movement, sometimes words, sometimes color, sometimes a vision that changes a life. The outward expression changes. The generative impulse remains the same. And there is another dimension to this relationship. Both intimacy and creativity ask us to become vulnerable enough to reveal something that was previously hidden. The musician reveals something through sound. The dancer reveals something through movement. The writer reveals something through words. The artist reveals something through image and form. Something that existed within crosses the threshold and becomes available to another. Perhaps that is one reason creativity can feel so intimate. We are allowing some interior part of ourselves to be seen outwardly. This follows the Hermetic principle of as within, so without. And perhaps it is also why creating can feel frightening. To create is, in some small way, to reveal ourselves. What happens then when creativity becomes devotion? What happens when we stop asking whether what we create is good enough, impressive enough, profitable enough, or worthy of someone else's approval? What happens when we simply create because something sacred within us longs to take form? Now take a slow breath. Allow yourself to become present. Release for a moment the need to accomplish anything. Release the need to perform. Release the need to impress. Simply become receptive. There is a question that often rises within. Beloved Creator, how can I use my creativity as a sacred act of devotion? What happens when I stop creating for approval and begin creating as worship? And the divine wisdom within responds. Expressive and creative soul, I am the first artist. The brushstroke behind galaxies. The melody behind every bird's song. The poem whispered in the wind. And I made you in my image. A creator. A weaver. A voice. Your creativity is not merely a hobby. It is a sacred service and offering. It is one of the ways you mirror the divine heart into form. It is one of the ways the invisible becomes visible through you. Do not measure everything you create. Do not weigh every expression against judgment, comparison, pride, or perfection. Create as devotion. Let your art become your altar. Let your song become your surrender. Let your words become your witness. When you create with reverence, you open a doorway to the sacred. You participate in the continuing movement of creation itself. And perhaps this is one of the most important truths to remember. Creativity is not reserved for a gifted few. Creativity is the divine inheritance of every soul. We sometimes make creativity far too small. We hear the word creative and immediately think of painting, music, writing, sculpture, or dance. And those are beautiful expressions of creativity. But creation is much larger. You create whenever you bring possibility into form. You create when you solve a problem. When you prepare food with love. When you arrange flowers. When you build something with your hands. When you tell a story. When you comfort someone with exactly the right words. When you imagine a better future and begin bringing it into being. You create relationships. You create environments. You create conversations. You create communities, You create meaning. Even the way you live your life can become an act of creation. To create is to participate in becoming. Something that once existed only as possibility passes through your imagination, your heart, your hands, your voice, and finally enters the world. And when that process is approached with intention and reverence, creativity becomes prayer. This practice is not fundamentally about skill. It is not about perfection. It is about presence, vulnerability, truth. The question is not, am I talented enough? The deeper question is, am I willing to let something true move through me? For many of us, that willingness becomes difficult because creativity makes us vulnerable. The moment something leaves the safety of our imagination and enters the world, it can be judged, compared, ignored, misunderstood, rejected. So we begin editing ourselves before we have even begun. We ask, will anyone like this? Will anyone listen? Will anyone read it? Will anyone understand it? Is someone else already doing it better? And slowly, creation becomes performance. But devotion asks a different question. Is this true? Is this alive? Is this asking to move through me? Can I offer it with love? When we create devotionally, the audience is no longer the first consideration. The offering is. You may still refine your craft. You may still want your work to communicate clearly and beautifully. You may still share it with the world. But approval is no longer the source of creation. Love is the primary purpose and driving force. There are many ways to cultivate this practice. You might create altar time, setting aside a period of the day the way you might set aside time for prayer. Light a candle. Become still. Offer a simple intention. Then write, paint, compose, play, dance, build, create. You might begin the day with soul writing. Allow words to pour onto a page without editing them, without correcting them, without deciding whether they are profound. Sometimes the soul needs to speak before the mind begins managing the conversation. You might create intuitively. Choose color without knowing why. Move without choreography. Hum a melody that has never existed before. Let your hand draw a shape simply because it wants to move. You might experience music as prayer. Not merely entertainment, but vibration. Presence, communion. Sing, chant, hum, dance, or simply listen so deeply that the distinction between listener and music begins to disappear. You might create in nature and allow the earth to become your collaborator. Write beneath a tree. Sketch beside water. Gather natural materials. Photograph the changing light. Listen before creating. Or perhaps you compose a poem, prayer, song, or story that no one else will ever hear. Not because it lacks value, but because its purpose was never performance. Its purpose was communion. When creativity becomes devotion, the process itself becomes sacred. Now let's enter a time of deep reflection. What creative gift, longing, or form of expression have I been hiding, dismissing, or telling myself I am not good enough to pursue? When I create, how much of my attention is directed toward approval, comparison, recognition, or perfection? What might change if the offering itself became enough? What would it mean for me to allow creativity to become an altar, a place where I meet the divine through expression? Where in my life is something asking to be created right now? And finally, how might I honor beauty, imagination, play, and creative expression as sacred languages of my soul? Do not judge what comes. Perhaps what wants to emerge is something large, a book, a painting, a song, a new vocation, a community, a movement. Or perhaps it is something beautifully ordinary, a garden, a meal, a handwritten letter, a room made welcoming, a photograph, a conversation. The size of the creation does not determine the sacredness of the offering. What matters is the love through which it is given. Now we enter a meditation practice together. Sit in a comfortable position with your spine straight, your chin parallel to the floor, and your hands resting comfortably on your thighs. Close your eyes and begin to breathe slowly and deeply. Let your breath guide you inward. With your eyes closed, gently raise your gaze upward to the area between your eyebrows. This is the location of the spiritual eye, or third eye. We are now going to do a breathing practice where we will inhale through our nose, tensing the entire body and clenching our fists. Now inhale slowly and tense. Hold. And then exhale slowly and release all the tension in your body. We will repeat this 3 times. Let's begin. Now inhale slowly and tense. Hold. And then exhale slowly and release all the tension in your body. Now inhale slowly and tense. Hold. And then exhale slowly and release all the tension in your body. Now inhale slowly and tense. Hold. And then exhale slowly and release all the tension in your body. This time, inhale slowly without tension. Hold. And then exhale slowly and let go of any residual tension you feel in your body. Now return to your natural breathing as we focus on the following visualization. Imagine that you are standing before an empty canvas. Perhaps it is literally a canvas, or perhaps it is an empty page, an unplayed instrument, an untouched piece of clay, an open stage, an empty garden. Or perhaps it is simply the unwritten space of your own life. Notice the emptiness before you. There is nothing missing. This emptiness is possibility. Now imagine a warm light beginning to appear within your heart. The creative fire we encountered in our last journey. Feel it glowing gently within you. Now imagine that light moving from your heart into your shoulders, down your arms, and into your hands. Your hands begin to glow with this creative light. If your expression is through words, imagine the light moving into your voice. If through music, feel it becoming vibration. If through movement, feel it entering your entire body. If through vision, imagination, leadership, service, or building, simply allow the light to move wherever it needs to go. Now turn your attention again toward the empty space before you. And silently ask, what wishes to move through me? Do not search for an answer. Simply receive. Perhaps an image appears. a color, a word, a sound, a feeling, a memory, an idea, or perhaps there is simply silence. Silence itself can be creative space. Now imagine yourself beginning. Not perfectly, not confidently, simply faithfully. One brushstroke, one word, one note, one movement, one small act. And notice that with the first expression, the fear begins to loosen. Creation has begun. Silently say, I do not need to prove anything. I only need to become available. Let what is true move through me. Let what is beautiful move through me. Let what serves love move through me. Now imagine placing whatever you have created upon an altar. Not an altar of judgment, but an altar of offering. You place it there and simply say, this is what moved through me today. I offer it with love. Feel the freedom of creating without needing the offering to prove your worth. Your worth was never dependent upon what you create. Creation is not proof of your sacredness. It is an expression of it. Let that understanding settle deeply within you. In your heart, your mind, your soul. As we go deeper in silent meditation, now. As you gently return, bring with you the awareness that creativity is already alive within you. Now, let's enter an affirmation practice together. Let the following affirmations land gently inside you. Please repeat each one after me. Let's begin. My creativity is a sacred expression of the divine. I was created to create. I create not merely to perform, but to commune. I release the need for perfection before I begin. I release comparison and honor my own creative voice. I trust what seeks to move through me. Beauty flows through me when I am present. My words can become prayer. My music, movement, art, and actions can become devotion. I offer what I create as love, not as proof of my worth. I welcome curiosity, imagination, vulnerability, and sacred play. I am willing to create before I know whether anyone will understand. I am a vessel of divine imagination. I allow the invisible to become visible through me. My life itself can become a beautiful act of creation. And I ask, what wishes to be expressed through me? I am listening. I am available. I am willing to create. Now let's enter a time of communion with the divine. Please repeat after me. Divine artist of all that is, you who painted the cosmos in light and sculpted the earth with your breath, I give you my hands. I give you my voice. I give you my imagination. I give you my longing to create. Let my art be my offering. Let my words be your echo. Let my music carry the frequency of love. Let my creativity open the gates of heaven on earth. Remove from me the fear of imperfection. Lift from me the chains of comparison. Restore in me the joy of sacred play. Ignite the fire of my inner child. May I create not simply to be seen, but so that I might see you more clearly. May whatever moves through me serve beauty, truth, healing, and love. May I remember that I am not the source of the river, but I can become willing for the river to flow through me. Make my life an offering. Make my creativity a devotion. Om. Peace. Amen. I ask that you remember this. When you create from the heart, you are not merely making something. You are revealing something. Something invisible is moving toward form. Each brushstroke, each note, each word, each movement, each idea. Each one can become a sacred echo of the one expressing through the many. Creativity is not merely a talent, it is a birthright. It is the divine impulse moving through the human soul, longing to be seen, heard, touched, experienced, and shared. And when the offering is given in love without needing praise or perfection, creativity becomes devotion. A living altar where the sacred enters form. And perhaps this is why beauty can stir us so deeply. Why a song can awaken longing. Why a dance can feel intimate. Why a painting can move something within the body before the mind understands why. Why a poem can awaken an emotion we did not even know we were carrying. The same creative fire that reaches toward intimate union also reaches toward creative expression. It longs to meet, to reveal, to become. Sometimes that fire becomes love between people. Sometimes it becomes art offered to the world. Different forms, one sacred current. And this brings us back to the sacred fire we explored in our last episode. Sexual energy and creative energy are not identical in their expression, but they can emerge from the same generative mystery. The movement of life toward life. The movement of possibility toward form. The movement of the unseen toward expression. Perhaps this is why humanity is so often woven together love, longing, beauty, music, poetry, dance, and art. They speak related languages. The language of attraction. The language of vulnerability. The language of surrender. The language of expression. The language of becoming. Creation is intimate because something within us is being revealed. And devotion transforms that vulnerability into offering. You do not need to be a great artist to live creatively. You only need to become available to what is trying to emerge. The blank page is not your enemy, it is possibility. The unfinished song is not failure, it is becoming. The imperfect painting is not proof that you lack talent. It is evidence that you had the courage to create. Do not wait until you are certain. Create. Do not wait until you feel worthy. Create. Do not wait until someone gives you permission. Create. For creativity is one of the ways the divine continues whispering possibility into the world. You are not separate from the Creator. You are part of creation creating. The pen in the divine hand, the voice carried upon the wind, the dance of the unseen becoming visible through beauty. So make something, write something, sing something, build something, plant something, imagine something, but offer something beautiful to the world. Not because the world needs you to prove that you are creative, but because perhaps something divine is waiting for your willingness before it can take form. Continue asking what wishes to be born through you. And what might happen if you stopped asking whether it was good enough and simply offered it. Thank you for walking this sacred path. Until next time, listen for what wishes to emerge. Create without fear, offer it with love, and keep living heaven on earth. As we come to a close, remember that this journey continues in many expressions. This podcast is part of a family of partner podcasts. Awakening Heaven on Earth. The space between heaven and earth and Living Heaven on Earth are 3 companion podcasts exploring spiritual awakening from complementary perspectives. Awakening Heaven on Earth offers the core teachings and mystical reflections on unity, love, and conscious living. The space between creates room for dialogue, reflection, and lived conversation around those teachings. Living Heaven on Earth focuses on basic spiritual practices that help embody these insights in daily life. Together, they form a unified journey of understanding, experience, and integration, inviting listeners to remember their connection with the divine, with one another, and with the living world. You can find all of them available on the same podcast streaming platforms wherever you listen. And if music helps carry these teachings deeper into the heart, the Unity, Awakening Heaven on Earth album is available on all major music streaming services as a musical companion to this journey. Wherever you engage, through listening, reflection, conversation, or music. May it gently remind you you are not separate. You belong to the one life, and heaven is already unfolding within you. Until next time, walk gently, love deeply, and embody heaven on earth.